Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 130. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess. I am the host of this lovely podcast, and Wander Wealthy is a platform for online service-based entrepreneurs who are looking to get real with the money stuff in their business and their personal life. I like to bring on fellow experts or just other entrepreneurs who have had the experience of building and running an online business and get to know them, their money story, as well as any expertise that they are willing to share with me and all of you. And every once in a while, I do a solo show. Actually, usually every other episode, sometimes more often than not. And that is what we are doing this week. We're going to be talking about a big question that I see a lot, or even more so, it's usually a misassumption that a lot of people have around what an accountant, specifically a CPA and tax-focused CPA does versus a bookkeeper versus a financial coach. So I wanted to address that. I wanted to break it down for each and every one of you so that if you are in your business and you're really starting to think about, I probably need to take some of this like financial and numbers stuff more seriously, but it freaks me out. Who can I turn to? This will give you kind of an opportunity and an option of who to really turn to in that situation. So if you do not know, I record these solo shows live inside of the Wealthy Entrepreneur Facebook group. That is one of the perks for being part of the group. We are a small, intimate group of individuals who want to have a community to talk about the money stuff. So if you are interested, you can join the Wealthy Entrepreneur group. Hello, I see people are joining. You can join by going to wanderwealthy.com/TWE group or just search for the Wealthy Entrepreneur inside of Facebook. And then you'll be able to access and attend these live recordings like Florencia is doing right now. So we're going to dive into today's content and really break apart the difference between an accountant, specifically a CPA, tax-focused accountant, and I'll get into kind of like the nuances of accounting as kind of a whole topic and that profession in general, versus a bookkeeper versus a financial coach. And I don't even like to say versus because it's not like we're competing against each other. In a lot of ways, you could utilize all three if your budget really allowed for it. And that is wonderful and great and good for everyone involved. So this is going to be specific to those who are in the US, running their business from the US. However, I think it does apply. I know that I do have a global audience. It does apply across the board for the most part, but maybe when I do get into talking about taxes, it's definitely specific to the US because that is what I know and am most familiar with, although I do have a handful of clients who are based outside of the US, such as Canada and the UK. So if you feel like you aren't sure if working with me specifically as your financial coach, whether in your personal life or your business is appropriate, maybe that'll give you some peace of mind if you are, in fact, from Canada, the UK, or another country, and you still think you could use my help. So, okay, let's get into this. Let's just start with accountants. Accountants and the accounting, I guess, career and job title can be very broad. In a sense, accountants can do a lot of things, and I think some of us would think of an accountant as someone that we would hire onto our team, and they would do kind of all the things that I'm about to share in terms of what a bookkeeper does, as well as a financial coach. And in a lot of ways, they can. However, as small business owners and small service-based business owners, maybe it's just you, maybe you're building a small team little by little, having an accountant might not be like the first hire that you plan to make in terms of a full-time employee. But if you did, I guess an accountant could help you with managing your books, getting the invoices paid, paying vendors, as well as running payroll and doing a lot of strategy things as well. The thing is, there's that accountant, and in some cases, that kind of pocket of accountants can also be CPAs. These are certified public accountants. They're specific to the US. I'm not sure if CPA is across the board, like worldwide. but I do know in the US, that is the certification. And those CPAs, they take up tests and have specific standards and ethics that they need to meet. And so not all accountants are CPAs, but you could assume all CPAs are accountants because that's what the CPA stands for, Certified Public Accountant. And so that is really kind of important to note. And then there's also, I think the most part when people think about accountants, especially as a small business owner, as a solo or a very small growing business owner, entrepreneur, especially my fellow online coaches out there, you're probably thinking of accountants in the most part as the CPA that you hire to do your taxes. So that's what I'm going to specifically speak to in terms of like, what is their job? What do they do? And also, I do need to make a disclaimer. A lot of CPAs, especially even just the ones that are focused on taxes, will do some of these other things. A lot of bookkeepers might do some of the things that a financial coach does, and a lot of financial coaches might do some of the things that bookkeepers might do. And even some accountants, although if they're not a CPA or they aren't a tax preparer, then they wouldn't be doing that. But it is important to know that in some ways, all three of these different sort of job descriptions could overlap and intersect. But as a CPA, accountant, tax preparer, or even, you might just be using a certified tax preparer that isn't an accountant, these people, though, really help you focus on taxes, which is something that is absolutely necessary when you are running a business. I think an accountant is someone you absolutely need to have. Now, there's a difference between hiring one on full time and having them on your team versus having someone at your disposal to help you prepare your taxes. What they can do is help you do your year-end tax returns. They can help you identify any opportunities for tax savings. They can help you understand, what sort of expenses that you are incurring in your business, if they are tax deductible or not. In addition to that, they can help you prepare quarterly estimates so you can start paying your taxes throughout the year instead of having some big end of year, tax freak out. And they can really make that part of your business super wonderful and easy. Now, what a lot of tax-specific accountants, CPAs, or even tax preparers don't usually get into the nitty-gritty doing, although in some cases they might, is the books. They aren't going to help you necessarily reconcile their books. They're going to take your books and then tell you sort of what you should be paying in terms of taxes, what you owe, and they might also help you audit your books in case you've totally messed something up or your bookkeeper has messed something up, but they might not actually be doing your books. They might have a bookkeeper on their team who they could who they could recommend to you to help you with your books, but they aren't the ones going to be doing that nitty-gritty work. In other ways, accountants can really be helpful, especially those who understand and keep up to date with tax law. The other things they might be able to help you with are, in a lot of ways, kind of advising you on your business structure. So a lot of people have questions around whether they should set up an LLC or if they should incorporate or if they should stay as a sole proprietor. And your accountant can really guide you in making that decision based off of their knowledge of the revenue and the tax liabilities that you might have and different rules that might apply to you given a different structure that you might implement. So those can be really good people to speak with to understand what sort of structure you should be setting up in your business, and then therefore identifying what additional measures you might need to take if you are going from a sole prop or an LLC into setting up a corporation, because there are definitely different rules and things that you need to follow. I also asked my accountant a lot of questions around my tax benefits as it relates to retirement accounts and what sort of retirement account I should be looking at setting up. I've made a big change recently, which I can talk about in a future episode, but those are things that they are very knowledgeable about in terms of like how much you can even contribute pre-tax or as a tax benefit to certain retirement accounts or other tax favorable investing accounts that you want to set up. So all of those are really great, and that's what a tax-focused CPA accountant can really help you do. And then, of course, they can also help you in any sort of audit situation with the IRS. So they can help represent you and get you prepared for an audit. Make sure that you're taking all the steps needed to keep you from undergoing an audit, or at least undergoing a messy audit, and all of that nitty-gritty stuff, which, you know what? I don't want to stress you out. Let's not get too into it. So for the most part, when we think accountant and we think how they could really play a role in our business, in a lot of ways, it's going down the tax journey. So we're not necessarily considering, especially us online business owners building our businesses rather lean, we're not considering bringing on an accountant as a full-time employee that's going to do all the books, do all the invoicing, do all the payroll, as well as prepare the books so that they can, and still most likely they'd pass it off to a tax CPA or a certified tax preparer. So we're probably not thinking about the full-time on staff accountant rather than that specific separate entity who is helping you prepare for tax time. And so in that case, that's what that tax person does, is they help you with all things related to an advising of tax matters. Okay, so that is that one category. And then we have the bookkeeper. As small business owners, bookkeeping comes up a lot. And so if you were to hire out someone to do your books for you, what they're going to do is manage your books. So this could look it could look a certain way depending on how you want to do this. Maybe you like to do everything manual, and so you just download your transactions from your bank account, from your credit cards, and then you put it into a spreadsheet and you pass that off to someone. Or more than likely, if you do hire a bookkeeper, they're going to get you set up on a bookkeeping platform like QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks or whatever it looks like for them. Now, you're probably going to pay your bookkeeper some sort of monthly fee, and then what they'll do is they will reconcile your books and balance your books. That's probably something you've heard about before. If you aren't doing books yet, or if you've just had someone doing your books and you're like staying far away from it, this is what they're doing. They're taking all of your transactions, if you're getting paid, they are categorizing those payments as a sale or as a service that you sold. Maybe you specifically categorize different income for different products that you have, whatever that looks like. And then again, your bookkeeper, you guys would have some sort of agreement around how to categorize that stuff. But for the most part, they'll categorize those incomes, and then they will also categorize your outflows. So all the different expenses that you run through your business, you need to categorize into what's called a chart of accounts. So you need to put them in their, virtual accounts, whether it is an educational professional expense, or it's a marketing and advertising expense, or it's a travel expense. Whatever that looks like for your business, your bookkeeper is going to go and look at all those different transactions and categorize them appropriately until your books are balanced. So the goal is obviously to not have any expenses left over that they're like, I don't know if this is even a business expense or not. And so it's helping you make sure that you're staying up to date. What can happen when you don't have a bookkeeper and you get a little bit lax on categorizing and balancing your own books is you could have months worth of books that are uncategorized. And obviously, the entire point of keeping your books clean and keeping them up to date and categorized and organized is for tax time. So you can pass what your bookkeeper has done off to your tax preparer, and your tax preparer can look at those journal entries and help you, determine what your tax bill is going to be at the end of the year. Now, a lot of this stuff, even your taxes, you can technically do on your own. It just usually by hiring a professional tax person, by hiring a bookkeeper, it's going to get done in a much more efficient manner. They're going to stay up to date with that stuff, and they know all the ins and outs of the tax law and how to file appropriately. And obviously, if you might be doing something wrong that you wouldn't want to be doing, or, different ways that you could potentially be saving. And so in a lot of ways, by having a tax preparer, whether it's a CPA or some certified tax preparer, by hiring them once a year or quarterly throughout the year and having them go through your incomes and outflows, they can really help you save a lot of money when it comes to tax time. Or save a lot of headaches or stress in terms of like, am I going to ever get audited because I don't know if I'm doing this right, which I think a lot of us have been there. And then a bookkeeper is the one that's just basically helping you stay up to date and organized with your books so you can easily pass that off to your accountant, your CPA, tax preparer. You could also do your bookkeeping on your own. You could utilize the software like QuickBooks, like Xero, and you could do all of your books on your own, or you could do it manually like I already suggested, downloading all those statements and categorizing them yourselves. And this is something that I do. So I do not hire a bookkeeper because I personally enjoy doing my books, which is something that most, and I understand a lot of people don't want to do, don't want to hassle with. For me, it takes about 20 minutes twice a month. I do it as part of my payday parties, and it is absolutely wonderful for me because it really helps me keep my finger on the pulse of my business. However, I totally understand that not everyone is interested in doing that, which is why I refer a lot of my clients to an awesome bookkeeping agency that I get to work closely with because I get to go into their books for each of my clients, and that is called Bench. If you guys are interested in signing up for Bench, what they are is a bookkeeping agency where they have a team of people working on your books. They can usually get your books done within, like if you uploaded all your stuff, they would do, they do a month of your bookkeeping for free. So if you did it now, at the date of this recording, we're recording in October, so they would do your September books for free within 1 business day, which is insane and amazing. They have a really awesome user experience on their app where you can just message them about certain transactions. If they have questions, they'll be like, yo, what's this? And you can be like, oh, that was the coach that I hired or whatever that looks like. And then they will reconcile all of your books while still giving you a view of what your books look like and what's happening and access to your reports and whatnot. So that's what I get also as my client's financial coach, and I can take a peek into their books, but I don't have to bother them to keep their books up to date, or even in some cases bother my clients' old bookkeepers who weren't able to keep their books up to date in a timely manner. And instead, there's a bookkeeping agency that is able to do that. And they are wonderful to work with. The people are super fun. So anyway, this isn't a podcast about Bench, but I have had a recent experience of working with them for many of my clients, and I've just loved it. And I also have a special discounted link where you can get 6 months of your bookkeeping. After your free month trial, you can get 6 months at 20% off. And I have found that they are also one of the more affordable bookkeeping solutions out there, which is really awesome. Now, what they're going to offer is very cut and dry categorizing your books and, making sure you're staying up to date, but they're not going to offer tax advice. They do have tax accountants that they can refer out for you and get you connected with, which is a really awesome benefit. But there's only certain things that Bench offers that, maybe a different bookkeeper might be able to offer beyond what they do. But if you're really just looking for someone to help you get your books consolidated, and then you're looking to maybe hire a financial coach instead of working with a bookkeeper in that way, then that could be a perfect solution. So if you guys want access to my special discount link, you can go to wanderwealthy.com/bench. They, of course, give me a little bit of a commission for referring you, but you guys also get some awesome benefits as well. And all of the clients that I have referred and have set up, and even people who aren't my clients, who I've just said, hey, this is a really awesome company, you guys should check it out. I have a special link if you want to also email me or send me a message on Instagram at Tess_Wicks. I can connect you with my contact there. I have a personal contact there who has been really helpful for me. So anyway, that's a long thing. But when we're talking about bookkeeping, it's either you do it yourself, which a lot of people don't want to do, or you hire a bookkeeper. And so if you're looking for that solution, I think Bench is a great way to go with that. With that said, what the bookkeeper is going to do again is they're going to reconcile your accounts. Beyond, what Bench offers, they might be someone who manages payroll. As a bookkeeper, they might be sending and collecting on invoices. That's the job description essentially of a bookkeeper. But again, it's general. So a bookkeeper could do much more than that. And there are amazing, wonderful bookkeepers that I have personally had the honor of meeting who do go above and beyond in their services. And I find that they quite over-deliver in a lot of ways. And so if you can find a gem like that, then that is also a wonderful opportunity for you as well. Moving on to a financial coach. And so the reason why I wanted to draw a line, which it's going to be a gray line, because again, there's a lot of overlap here, but make it known what the differences are is because I see a lot of confusion, even in terms of me talking to clients and them wondering, like, should I just hire an accountant on staff? And I'm like, maybe you wouldn't necessarily need to do that, especially at this point in your business. And so how a coach is differentiated is where, and I can really only speak for myself, but I find that as a financial coach for business owners, this is what I would expect when hiring one myself, is someone who can help you see the forest beyond the trees. Is that how that phrase goes? So what I do with my clients is, we can get really stuck in the nitty gritty. If they are doing their own bookkeeping or their bookkeeper is taking care of everything, they're either really, really focused in on the small, minute details or not really paying attention at all. And so as a coach, I really help them understand what the big picture looks like. I help them look back at what's been happening in the past, analyze that data, and then project that forward, but also helping them with just really being able to set their own goals for themselves. I've talked about it many times before on this show. I am a huge proponent of setting purpose-driven revenue goals. So instead of being like, yeah, it'd be nice to make 10K months, which of course that would be nice, but let's get more specific with what you really want to bring in for yourself. And so that's why I've created the Easy Profit Roadmap, because I want everyone to be able to set their purpose-driven revenue goals, not just my clients. And you can access that by going to wanderwealthy.com/roadmap. It's also in the description of this podcast episode, so you can go check that out. But beyond that, I want my clients to really feel empowered and motivated of what these goals mean for them. These goals, and so where I play a role in coaching with them is getting them to set these goals with very specific numbers, but then being able to take these goals and break it down so that now it can inform how many clients they're going to take on, or how many customers they really want to serve, or how many launches they want to do throughout the year, or how many people they can just take on as a retainer. But also their pricing, and help them build out a pricing strategy, help them infuse their pricing with high value instead of just selling. I personally do work with other bookkeepers, and so instead of just selling their bookkeeping services, how can they infuse that with value? It's helping them implement a better cash flow system and helping them understand how beyond what, their books are saying or their financial reports are saying, there's a more tangible way for the entrepreneur, the person who really is in charge of saying yes or no to certain income opportunities as well as certain investments that they might be making. There's a better way for them to organize their cash flow on the top level before it gets trickled down into the bookkeeping system, and then it's organized in a very standard, generally accepted accounting principles way, which is what all accountants will do when it comes to organizing the books. So for me as a coach, it's helping my fellow entrepreneurs implement this cash flow system that makes sense and allows them to claim having profit in their business before doing the generally accepted accounting principles equation of taking their income, subtracting expenses, and then, whatever's left over will be profit. I say, no, let's set that profit aside. Let's follow profit first principles. Let's do the good stuff where we're prioritizing profit as something that we need to have. We're making it necessary, and we're not, allowing ourselves to spend that money, which in most cases we'll do if we follow the traditional formula of income minus expenses equals profit. So it's implementing that cash flow system that for the entrepreneur is so much easier to follow than looking at your bookkeeping or your financial statements to make certain decisions. There's a time and place for looking at those financial statements. That's another thing that I do with my clients is help them read and understand and make sense of those statements so that they can make better decisions for their business in the long run. There's a time and place for that. Usually it's for long-term planning versus impulse decisions, which Most of us as the entrepreneur are in kind of that day-to-day impulse decision-making mode. So if you're going to be there, you need a system that supports that. And that's where the cash flow system that I help my clients implement really comes in. A lot of the work that I do purely as a financial coach, not even getting into a lot of the mindset and business techniques I implement with my clients, is really helping them understand what sort of decisions are the best ones available to them, helping them feel empowered and actually knowledgeable and educated around the financial pieces of their business and those opportunities that are available to their business for financial investments that they might be making or decisions they might need to make, as well as what sort of opportunities are available to them as an individual who happens to have a business. So for me, as a financial coach to other business owners, it's also important for me to help my clients on a personal level, helping them with their personal finances, because so often those two bleed together, or they, at the very least, if they are in two separate containers, they impact each other. Even just the vibe of what's happening in your personal life can impact your business and vice versa. So it's really important for me to come with a comprehensive methodology to help my clients so that they really feel supported and the entire money picture, the entire financial picture of their life makes sense, and they can feel confident in those decisions that they're making for themselves. I guess as a bonus to what a financial coach specifically provides, I also do a lot of that mindset work with my clients, both for business strategy and financial strategy. So really helping them understand what might be holding them back in terms of, their prior limiting beliefs around what they're allowed to spend or how much they're allowed to save or how much they're allowed to make, to also what might be holding them back in terms of limiting beliefs around what work means to them, what it means to work. A lot of us have this deep-seated programming of what work should be. And that's something that I often find myself working with my clients on, because in a lot of ways, our beliefs and our approach to what work should look like, and I'm using quotes here because so often, work doesn't have to look a certain way, but we just are so ingrained with this idea of work, that can trickle into our money story. It can trickle into our actual ability to create value throughout our business and create profit and sustainable growth. And so we work on both levels of that. And then I provide a lot of what ends up happening is with money coaching, with financial coaching for businesses, it ripples into business coaching. And so for so long, I've been kind of staying away from the idea that I am a business coach, because I don't lead with marketing strategy. I don't lead with business strategy as a whole, but a lot of my experience and expertise does come with my financial coaching package, just because we talk a lot more on a holistic level, because the decisions you're making about investing in certain things or about hiring certain people or about taking on certain types of clients really trickles back to, it's a money thing, but it's also a business decision. And so in a lot of ways, when we look at our financial situation, when we look at making decisions for the greater good of our business, we're making strategical business decisions. So we need to kind of think about how that all plays out. And drawing this full circle with setting those purpose-driven revenue goals, it comes down to also helping my clients with understanding what is appropriate for them in terms of pricing, in terms of how much time they're going to spend working, in terms of how many clients they really feel they can hold that capacity and that space for. So it all really intersects. And so to my surprise, in a lot of ways, I also am a supportive business coach in addition to a financial coach. We just let the data help us make decisions moving forward, but we also have the mindset component and the mindset strategies that I have become certified in and that I am able to help my clients utilize, so that we don't get so attached to the numbers that we lose the personality of it all. So I find that the best way to approach anything, but especially business and, the money stuff, is taking the data and utilizing that to make better decisions, but then also not getting so married and wrapped up in those decisions that you paralyze yourself from moving forward, especially if, you fall short or you totally bust through any sort of goals or expectations that you're setting for yourself. You guys, that was a long spiel. That was a lot of what does a financial coach do. And I think you can start to see the differences of how a financial coach might differ from a bookkeeper, might differ from an accountant, and how having each or having some sort of form of each can be super beneficial and critical to the success of your business. Accountants, the ones, so CPA, tax preparing accountants, or just a tax preparer, someone who's going to help you prepare, file your taxes, make sure that you're following IRS guidelines and state and federal laws, that someone is pertinent to your business. You absolutely want to make sure you have someone like that on your team at the very least so that you can have the peace of mind, but also because they could save you a huge chunk of cash and time down the road or right now. So having access to that is super important. And that's something that cannot be provided through necessarily someone who is just a bookkeeper or someone who is just a financial coach. Having a bookkeeper or having access to even a bookkeeping software that can help you stay organized. And if you want to be your own bookkeeper and you're willing to do it, then by all means, that's a great opportunity. Otherwise, finding a bookkeeper or an awesome service that's going to do your bookkeeping for you, so it's easy to pass off those books to your accountant, that's going to be really awesome. The other big reason why you would want to have a bookkeeper, or you're going to be your own best advocate for getting your books done and organized and doing it right, is because if your accountant, your CPA, tax preparing accountant, has to do your books, you're going to be paying a lot more money than you would have if you were keeping, up to date and up to speed with your books, or if you were paying someone else. And so if you know that you're not doing the best work that you should be doing, but you don't want a huge tax bill at the end of the year, tacked on to the taxes part, but a bill from your accountant for doing your taxes because they had to do a lot of re-reconciling or I don't know what, then it's definitely worth finding a bookkeeper. From there, we move into the financial coach who is going to kind of be on your team. I consider myself as a financial coach someone who is like your outsourced back pocket CFO. So I'm going to help you make those decisions within your business, determine what some good investments might be for you that maybe you have made in the past or you're planning on making, determine, advertising investments or hiring investments or new software solution investments, and really help you determine the return that you might be getting from those investments that you're making, or maybe cutting some things out so you can make room for different moves that you want to make. But also pricing and analyzing and planning and all of those things that you might not get from your bookkeeper or your tax preparer. So that's the gist of it. And I would love to know what sort of questions you might have for me in terms of where you're at in your business. And if you have questions about what the right next step would be for you, I'd love to hear from you. I'm not just going to tell you to hire me. I think there is the person that is fit for hiring and working with someone like myself. Or, I'm super happy to say, no, I think having a tax preparer is the perfect next step for you. I would say that's probably the first layer, the first investment I would make, especially if you're doing your taxes on your own. One bonus tip, I just thought of this and I wanted to include it earlier, that I think is really a good thing. If you are planning to do your books on your own, this is what I did. I hired an accountant. I paid an accountant for their kind of advisory services to help me get set up in my bookkeeping platform, to help me set up my chart of accounts, to help me understand what should go where. And for me, that was a really, really, really smart decision to make because it really helped me feel more confident in doing my own books. But I also knew that the books were something I wanted to personally do. And at this level, at this rate that I'm at, it's still something that I can manage and I'm happy to do. Although in some cases, others just would much rather outsource that to a third party. And so in that case, you might look at hiring your own bookkeeper or working with someone who can help you along those lines. Anyway, that's kind of my closing tip. But if you do want to talk more, do reach out. Add me on Instagram at Tess_Wicks and send me a DM. I'm happy to chat about it. Any questions you have, regarding this episode. And feel free to share this episode. If you found it really informative, I would love it if you could share it on Instagram, tag me, and I can send you some love. And if you want to leave us a rating and review in iTunes, even if you don't listen to the podcast in iTunes, I would absolutely appreciate that. You can go to itunes.com and search for the Wander Wealthy podcast, and then there should be an option to leave a 5-star rating and write a little review, and then it'll get posted in a couple days. So I know it is something that probably takes 3 minutes of your time, and I will appreciate every single minute that you would be willing to give us. That helps the podcast get known, seen, and heard even more, and so we can welcome more people, more listeners into the community, and it really helps me out as well. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in to the Wander Wealthy podcast this week. If you want to download or get access to the links that I mentioned, head to the show notes or go to the description box. The show notes are located at wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 130. All right, you guys, until next time, I hope you wander wealthy.